Lily Patterson stared at herself in the bathroom mirror, adjusting her black tie for the third time. Her hands were shaking. Today was her first day at Romano's Italian restaurant, and she was already 10 minutes early because she was too nervous to wait at home any longer. She was 23 and desperate for this job. 3 months of searching, countless applications, and finally someone had called her back. Sure, it wasn't teaching like she'd dreamed of after college, but bills didn't care about dreams, and her bank account was screaming at her to take whatever work she could get. The restaurant was the kind of place where business people made deals over expensive wine. Everything was dim lighting, white tablecloths, and an atmosphere that whispered money. Lily had never worked in a place this fancy before. Her only experience was slinging coffee at a campus cafe where the biggest crisis was running out of oat milk. The manager, Anthony Romano, had made it clear during the interview that she was taking a chance on her. His exact words were, "You've got 30 days to prove you belong here. One major screw-up and you're done." Not exactly a warm welcome, but Lily needed the job too badly to argue. Walking into the staff area that first morning, Lily immediately felt the wall of cool indifference from the other servers. There were 4 of them getting ready for the lunch shift, and they barely glanced up when she entered. A tall guy with perfectly styled hair was checking his reflection in a small mirror hung by the time clock. This was Trevor, though Lily didn't know his name yet. He looked her up and down with an expression that made her feel like he'd already decided she wasn't worth knowing. A beautiful woman with long dark hair was touching up her lipstick. She caught Lily's eye in her compact mirror and smirked before snapping it shut. That was Michelle. Next to her stood a muscular guy who seemed to follow Michelle's every move. His name was Brian, and he was clearly more interested in impressing his girlfriend than welcoming new coworkers. The hostess, Nicole, was the only one who spoke to her. "You're the new girl? Lily, right?" "Yes, that's me. Nice to meet you." Nicole nodded but didn't smile. "Anthony's in his office. You should probably check in with him before the shift starts." It wasn't hostile exactly, but it wasn't friendly either. Lily felt like she'd walked into a club that didn't want new members. She found Anthony's office and knocked softly. The first week was brutal. Nobody helped her learn the computer system for entering orders. Nobody showed her where things were kept. When she asked questions, she got short answers that barely explained anything. It was like they wanted her to fail. Trevor was the worst. He'd make comments just loud enough for her to hear. "New girl gave table 4 the wrong wine again," or "Some people just aren't cut out for fine dining." Each comment felt like a small cut, and by the end of her shifts, Lily felt like she was bleeding from 1,000 tiny wounds. She made mistakes, lots of them. She forgot to refill water glasses. She mixed up which table ordered what. She took too long clearing plates because she was still learning the rhythm of the dining room. Nothing catastrophic, but enough that Anthony kept pulling her aside with that disappointed look on his face. "Lily, you need to move faster. Lily, you can't forget side salads. Lily, I'm starting to wonder if this was a mistake." Every correction felt like confirmation that she didn't belong there. She'd go home exhausted, not just physically but emotionally drained from being surrounded by people who wanted her gone. What made it harder was knowing she had something valuable to offer, something special. But in this world of wine lists and proper plate presentation, nobody cared about her real talent. Lily was fluent in American Sign Language. She'd learned it because of her younger brother, Danny. He'd been born deaf, and Lily had watched him struggle in a world that wasn't built for him. She'd seen the frustration on his face when people talked over him, around him, but never to him. She'd watched him feel invisible in crowded rooms full of people who couldn't communicate with him. So Lily had learned to sign. Not just the basics, but really learned it. She'd taken classes, practiced for hours, and eventually became Danny's main connection to the hearing world. When she'd gone to college, she'd studied to become a teacher at schools for deaf children. That was her passion, her calling. But teaching jobs were hard to get, especially in specialized fields. Schools wanted experience, but nobody would give her a chance to get that experience. So here she was, carrying plates of pasta and trying not to cry when Trevor made another snide comment about her incompetence. By week 3, Lily was seriously considering quitting. The money wasn't worth the daily humiliation. She'd find something else, anything else, where she didn't feel like a failure every single shift. Then Friday night happened and everything changed. The restaurant was packed. Every table was full, and there was a waiting list at the door. Lily was running between her tables, trying desperately to keep up. Her section was near the window, and she could see Anthony watching her from his spot by the bar. She knew he was looking for reasons to fire her. That's when Nicole seated a family in her section. There were 4 of them, a mom, a dad, and 2 kids. Nicole had this little smirk on her face as she walked away, and Lily soon understood why. Families with young children were tough tables. The kids got restless, made messes, and parents were often distracted. Plus, families rarely tipped as well as business diners or couples. Nicole had given her the difficult table on purpose. Lily grabbed 4 menus and headed over, putting on her best smile even though she was exhausted. "Good evening. Welcome to Romano's. Can I start you with some drinks?" The dad started to answer, but then Lily noticed something that made her heart skip. The little girl, maybe 7 years old, was signing to her mom. Her hands moved quickly, gracefully, asking a question about the menu. The mom signed back, then looked up at Lily with an expression Lily recognized immediately. It was the look Danny's mom used to have before Lily learned to sign. The look that said, "Please be patient with us. Please don't make this difficult. We're used to being an inconvenience." Without even thinking about it, Lily signed as she spoke. "Good evening. Welcome. What would you like to drink?" The transformation on that mom's face was instant. Her eyes went wide, filling with tears. The dad's mouth fell open, and the little girl lit up like someone had just handed her the best present in the world. The mom's hands moved rapidly. "You know sign language? You can really sign?" Lily signed back, her smile becoming genuine for the first time all night. "Yes, fluently. My brother is deaf. I'm so happy to meet you. My name is Lily, and I'll be taking care of you tonight." The little girl started signing excitedly, bouncing in her seat. The parents looked at each other with expressions of relief and joy. This simple thing, being able to communicate in their language, meant everything to them. What Lily didn't notice was Trevor standing across the dining room, watching her with Michelle and Brian. She didn't see Trevor make exaggerated hand gestures mocking her signing. She didn't hear Michelle's giggle or Brian's comment about how ridiculous she looked waving her hands around. She was too focused on the little girl, whose name she'd just learned was Sophie, and who was telling her all about their move to Chicago, and how nervous she was about starting a new school. Lily was in her element, communicating easily, making this family feel seen and valued. In that moment, surrounded by people who'd made her feel small and incompetent for weeks, Lily was finally doing something that mattered. She was using her real gift, the one that came from years of loving her brother and wanting to make the world easier for people like him. She had no idea that this simple act of kindness was about to change everything, that Trevor's mockery was being captured on video, that by this time next week, her face would be on the news and her co-workers would be facing consequences they never saw coming. All she knew was that Sophie was smiling at her like she was the most important person in the world. And for Lily, after 3 weeks of being treated like she didn't matter, that feeling was worth more than all the perfect wine pairings and flawless table service in the world. Sometimes the things that make you different are exactly the things that make you special. Lily was about to learn that lesson in the most public, dramatic way possible. But for now, she was just a waitress making a little girl feel seen. And that was enough. Lily spent the next 10 minutes just talking with the family, and for the first time since starting at Romano's, she felt like herself again. Her hands moved naturally through the air, signing while speaking, completely comfortable and confident. Sophie's mom introduced herself as Catherine, and she couldn't stop smiling. Through a mixture of signing and speaking, she explained that she and Sophie were both deaf. The dad, Robert, and their 10-year-old son, Tyler, could hear but were fluent in sign language too. "We just moved here from a small town in Iowa," Robert explained while Catherine signed for Sophie. "It's been a rough adjustment. Everything's bigger here, more crowded, and we've been having trouble finding places that can accommodate us." Catherine's hands moved expressively as she signed to Lily. "Restaurants are the worst. Most servers don't know how to handle deaf customers. They either ignore Sophie and me completely, talking only to Robert, or they get frustrated and impatient. We've had people literally roll their eyes at us." Lily felt a familiar anger rising in her chest. Danny had told her the same stories countless times. "I'm so sorry you've experienced that. You won't get that treatment here, I promise. Tonight you can just relax and enjoy your meal." Sophie tugged on Lily's sleeve and signed, "You're the first waitress who ever talked to me directly. Usually they act like I'm not even there." Those words hit Lily right in the heart. She crouched down to Sophie's level and signed, "You're not invisible to me. And I want to know what you want to eat, okay? Not what your parents think you want. This is your dinner, your choice." Sophie's face absolutely glowed. She signed back enthusiastically, telling Lily about her favorite foods, asking questions about the menu, behaving like any excited 7-year-old at a restaurant, except she was doing it all in sign language, and for once, someone was actually listening. While Lily was completely absorbed in taking their order and making them feel comfortable, she had no idea what was happening across the restaurant. Trevor had positioned himself at the server station with a clear view of her table. Michelle and Brian had joined him, and all three were watching Lily with expressions of amusement. "Look at her go," Trevor said with a smirk, having a full conversation with her hands. "She's really committed to this weird performance." Michelle giggled, covering her mouth. "I bet she learned that from some YouTube video. She's probably just making stuff up and hoping they don't notice." Brian shook his head, grinning. $20 says she has no idea what she's actually saying. She's just waving her hands around." Trevor started mimicking sign language, making exaggerated gestures and movements that looked nothing like actual ASL. Michelle and Brian laughed, and a couple of other servers glanced over with curious smiles. To them it was harmless fun, making jokes about the awkward new girl who was trying too hard. What they didn't know was that Tyler, Sophie's 10-year-old brother, had his phone out. He was recording a video of the restaurant, planning to capture the moment his family had their first nice dinner out in Chicago. And his camera was pointed in a direction that caught not just Lily signing with his family, but also Trevor, Michelle, and Brian in the background, making their mocking gestures. Back at the table, Lily was taking Sophie's order directly from her. Sophie wanted spaghetti, but without the red sauce because she was picky about textures. She wanted it with butter and Parmesan cheese, and could she please have extra bread? Lily signed everything back to make sure she understood correctly, then confirmed with Catherine that this was okay. "Of course," Catherine signed, tears in her eyes. "You're treating her like any other customer. Like she matters. You have no idea how rare that is." "She does matter," Lily signed back firmly. "Every customer matters, but especially kids. They remember how adults treat them. I want Sophie to remember tonight as a good experience." The dinner service continued, and Lily checked on the family frequently. She brought Sophie's pasta exactly as requested, made sure Tyler got his chicken prepared the way he liked it, and kept everyone's drinks filled. But more than that, she engaged with them. She learned that Sophie loved to draw, that she was nervous about starting at a new school, that she missed her old friends back in Iowa. Lily signed encouragement and support. "Starting a new school is scary, but you're going to do great. You're creative, you're smart, and you're brave for handling such a big move." Sophie signed back shyly. "Will you be my friend?" Lily felt tears prick her eyes. "Absolutely. I'd be honored to be your friend." The family ended up staying for almost 2 hours, not because the service was slow, but because they were actually enjoying themselves. They weren't anxious or uncomfortable like they usually were in restaurants. They weren't trying to rush through their meal to avoid awkward interactions. They were just relaxing and having a nice family dinner. Catherine couldn't stop thanking Lily. Every time Lily came to check on them, Catherine's hands moved rapidly, expressing gratitude. "You've given us such a gift tonight. You made Sophie feel important and seen. You made all of us feel welcome. This is the best restaurant experience we've had in years." When Lily brought the check, she found a note written on the back of a business card tucked into the check holder. It was from Catherine, and it read, "Thank you for seeing my daughter. Thank you for making her feel like she matters. You have a rare gift. Don't let anyone make you feel small for using it. Catherine Miller." Lily tucked the card into her apron pocket, feeling emotional. The tip they left was generous too, over 60%, but the note meant more to her than the money. This was why she'd wanted to work with the deaf community. This connection, this ability to make someone feel valued and included, was what mattered. As the family got ready to leave, Sophie ran up and gave Lily a big hug. She signed, "Thank you for being nice to me. You're the best waitress ever." Lily hugged her back and signed, "You're the best customer ever. Come back and visit me, okay?" The family promised they would, and they meant it. As they walked out of the restaurant, Catherine and Robert were holding hands. Tyler was chatting excitedly about dessert, and Sophie was skipping. They looked like a family who'd had a wonderful evening, which is exactly what they deserved. Lily cleared their table with a smile on her face. feeling better than she had in weeks. For once, she hadn't been fumbling through wine orders or forgetting what table needed what. She'd been using her real skills, the ones that actually mattered to her. She didn't notice Trevor watching her with a sneer. She didn't hear him say to Michelle, "Must be nice to spend 2 hours on one table while the rest of us actually work." She didn't see Nicole roll her eyes and mutter about how families never tipped well, so Lily probably got stiffed after all that effort. She was completely unaware that Tyler's video existed, sitting on his phone, capturing both the beautiful moment of Lily connecting with his family and the ugly moment of her co-workers mocking something they didn't understand. The rest of the shift passed in a blur. Lily handled her other tables competently, energized by the positive experience with Sophie's family. When the night ended and she counted her tips, she'd made more money than any shift so far. The family's generous tip had really helped. As she left the restaurant that night, walking to the bus stop under the Chicago streetlights, Lily felt something she hadn't felt in weeks: hope. Maybe she could make this work. Maybe she could be good at this job. Maybe she belonged here after all. She pulled out Catherine's note and read it again. "Don't let anyone make you feel small for using your gift." Lily smiled and tucked the note back into her pocket. She had no idea that within days Catherine's words would take on a whole new meaning, that her simple act of kindness would be broadcast across the city, that the co-workers who'd mocked her would face consequences, that her life was about to change in ways she couldn't imagine. All she knew was that she'd made a little girl feel seen and valued, and in a world that so often made people like Sophie feel invisible, that was everything. When Lily got home that night, she video called Danny to tell him about her day. His face lit up as she signed the story to him, describing Sophie's excitement and Catherine's gratitude. "You're doing important work," Danny signed to her, "not just the waitressing. The part where you make deaf people feel normal, feel included, that matters more than you know." "I just wish the people I work with understood that," Lily signed back. "They treat me like I'm incompetent, like I don't belong there." "You belong anywhere you choose to be," Danny signed firmly. "And those people are idiots if they can't see how talented you are." Lily smiled at her little brother, who wasn't so little anymore. He was 19 now, confident and strong. Nothing like the frustrated kid who used to cry because he couldn't communicate with his classmates. "Thanks. Danny, I needed to hear that tonight." "Anytime, sis. Now go get some sleep, and maybe bring me some fancy Italian food next time you work." Lily laughed and signed goodnight, feeling better than she had in weeks. She fell asleep that night with Catherine's note on her nightstand, a reminder that she'd made a difference, even if it was just for one family on one night. She had no idea that Catherine Miller wasn't just any grateful customer. She was a television producer for a major news station in Chicago, and she'd gone home that night with a story idea that would change Lily's life forever. While Lily slept peacefully, Catherine was in her home office, reviewing Tyler's video. She watched Lily signing with her family, saw the joy on Sophie's face, witnessed the genuine connection and care. Then she saw the background where 3 restaurant employees were clearly mocking sign language, making crude gestures and laughing. Catherine's expression hardened. She'd spent years advocating for deaf rights, fighting for accessibility and inclusion. She dealt with prejudice and discrimination her whole life, and she wasn't about to let this slide. She picked up her phone and sent an email to her colleague at the news station. The subject line read, "Story idea, discrimination and compassion at local restaurant." The gears were in motion. The story was about to break, and Lily's quiet act of kindness was about to become very, very public. 3 days after serving Sophie's family, Lily was folding napkins during a slow Monday afternoon when Anthony called her into his office. Her stomach immediately dropped. Being called to the manager's office was never good news, and she'd been on probation long enough to know her job was still hanging by a thread. "Lily, sit down," Anthony said, his expression unreadable. She sat, her hands gripping the armrests of the chair. "Did I do something wrong?" "That depends on your perspective." He paused, studying her face. "Did something unusual happen with a customer last Friday night? A family?" Lily's mind raced. Had they complained? Had she messed up their order somehow and not realized it? "I waited on a family with a deaf mother and daughter. I used sign language to communicate with them. They seemed happy when they left." "Did they say something?" Anthony leaned back in his chair. "They didn't complain. In fact, they were very impressed. So impressed that the mother, who happens to be a television producer, wants to interview you for a news story. Lily's mouth fell open. What, a news story about what? About you. About what you did for her family. She's waiting in the conference room right now if you're willing to talk to her. This made no sense. Lily had just done her job. She'd communicated with customers in their language, the way any good server would. Why would that be newsworthy? But she followed Anthony to the conference room, where Catherine was waiting with a warm smile. She stood and signed a greeting, which Lily returned automatically before speaking. Mrs. Miller, it's so good to see you again. Mr. Romano said you wanted to talk to me? Catherine nodded, her expression kind. Please call me Catherine. And yes, I wanted to ask you something important. Would you be willing to be interviewed on camera about what happened that night? About how you communicated with my family? I still don't understand. I just took your order in sign language. Why is that news? Catherine pulled out her phone and showed Lily a video. It was the one Tyler had recorded. Lily watched herself signing with Sophie, saw the joy on the little girl's face, witnessed the connection they'd built. It made her smile. Then Catherine pointed to the background of the video. Do you see what's happening behind you? Lily squinted at the screen and her heart sank. There, clearly visible, were Trevor, Michelle, and Brian. Trevor was making exaggerated hand movements, mocking sign language. Michelle was laughing behind her hand. Brian was shaking his head like he was watching something ridiculous. I had no idea, Lily whispered, feeling sick. I was so focused on your family I didn't see them doing that. I know you didn't, which makes the contrast even more powerful. While you were giving my daughter the best restaurant experience of her life, your co-workers were mocking her primary form of communication. That's not just rude, it's discriminatory, and people need to know about it. Anthony, who'd been silent until now, looked genuinely shocked. I had no idea my staff was behaving this way. I believe you, Catherine said, which is why I want to run a story that shows both sides. The beautiful side, a young woman going out of her way to make a deaf child feel valued. And the ugly side, employees mocking something they don't understand. With your permission, Lily, I'd like to feature you in a piece about inclusion, accessibility, and why representation matters in customer service. Lily looked at the video again, at Sophie's happy face and Trevor's cruel mimicry. She thought about Danny, about all the times he'd been mocked or ignored. She thought about how many other deaf people had experiences like the one Sophie's family usually had, being made to feel like inconveniences. Yes, she said firmly, I'll do the interview. The interview was scheduled for 2 days later at a local coffee shop. Catherine brought a reporter named Alex who made Lily feel comfortable despite her nerves about being on camera. They talked for over an hour about Danny, about learning sign language, about why it mattered so much to her to communicate with Sophie directly. When I saw her signing to her mom, it was like seeing my brother, Lily explained. I knew exactly what she needed. Just to be acknowledged, to matter as much as any other customer. Alex showed her the video of her coworkers mocking sign language. How does this make you feel? Lily took a breath. Sad mostly. They were making fun of something they don't understand. Sign language is beautiful and complex. It's used by millions of people. Mocking it is like mocking any other language. It's ignorant and it hurts people. The segment aired on Thursday evening. It was a 5-minute piece called The Waitress Who Spoke With Her Hands. It showed clips of Lily's interview, footage of her demonstrating basic signs, and testimonials from Catherine and Sophie about how Lily had made them feel. It also showed the video of Trevor, Michelle, and Brian mocking sign language, though their faces were blurred. The segment didn't name Romano's directly, but the distinctive decor was visible in the background. By 7 p.m., the video had been shared 1,000 times on social media. By 9 p.m., 20,000 shares. By Friday morning, it had gone completely viral. Lily woke up to her phone exploding with notifications. The video had been picked up by national news outlets. Her interview was being shared across the country. People were commenting, sharing their own stories, praising her for what she'd done. But there was also anger directed at the restaurant and the unnamed staff members. People were calling for boycotts, leaving negative reviews, demanding that the employees who'd mocked sign language be fired. When Lily arrived at work Friday morning, there were protesters outside holding signs. Respect all languages, one read. Deaf rights matter, said another. Her stomach churned as she walked past them and into the restaurant. Inside was chaos. Anthony was on the phone, his face red with stress. Trevor, Michelle, and Brian stood in a corner looking terrified, having just realized they were the blurred faces in a viral video being condemned across the country. The other staff members were staring at Lily with expressions she couldn't quite read. Respect? Jealousy? Guilt? Probably all three. Nicole approached her cautiously. Lily, can we talk? They went to the break room and Nicole's tough exterior cracked. I need to apologize. We all treated you terribly when you started. We made you feel incompetent and unwelcome, and now it turns out you were doing something really special, and we were too caught up in our own small-minded drama to see it. Why did you do it? Lily asked. Why decide I wasn't worth being kind to? Nicole looked ashamed. There's this hierarchy here. New people have to earn their place, prove themselves. Trevor created that culture, and we all just went along with it. It sounds so stupid now, but that's how it was. That's not okay, Nicole. You made me feel worthless for weeks, I know, and I'm sorry. Really, genuinely sorry. Nicole's eyes were wet with tears. Watching your interview, seeing how much you care about helping people communicate, how you lit up talking about your brother and Sophie. It made me realize what a jerk I've been. You're better than all of us. Before Lily could respond, Anthony called an emergency meeting. Everyone crammed into the back room, servers, cooks, dishwashers, hosts, all of them looking nervous. Anthony looked exhausted. You've all seen the news story. I've been on the phone with corporate headquarters all morning. Here's what's happening. Trevor, Michelle, Brian, you're suspended immediately pending investigation. If the investigation confirms what's in that video, you'll be terminated. The three of them looked at each other, their faces pale as paper. Second, Anthony continued, all staff will undergo mandatory sensitivity training on disability awareness and inclusive customer service. This should have been standard training years ago. The fact that it wasn't is my failure. He turned to Lily. Third, Lily Patterson is being promoted to head server and training coordinator. She'll develop a program to teach basic sign language to all staff, and she'll lead our efforts to make Romano's more accessible and welcoming for deaf customers. The room exploded in whispers. Lily's jaw dropped. What? I've only been here 3 weeks. And in 3 weeks you've shown more compassion and skill than some people who've been here years. Anthony said firmly, you're what this restaurant needs. If you want the position, it's yours. Significant pay increase, new responsibilities, chance to actually make a difference. Lily looked around the room at all the faces staring at her. Some looked resentful, especially those who'd been part of the mean girl clique. Others looked impressed, but most looked ashamed, finally seeing that the incompetent new girl they dismissed was actually the most capable person there. She thought about Sophie's smile, about Danny's years of being ignored and mocked, about all the deaf people who avoided restaurants because they were tired of being made to feel like problems. I'll do it, Lily said, but everyone has to actually commit to learning. Not just show up, but really care about why this matters. I won't waste my time teaching people who think it's stupid. Anthony nodded. Anyone who doesn't take this seriously can work somewhere else. As the meeting broke up, Lily's phone buzzed. A text from Catherine. Have you seen the news? You're trending nationally. My station wants to do a follow-up story showing Romano's transformation, and you teaching sign language to your coworkers. Interested? Lily looked around the restaurant that had made her feel so small just days ago. The same restaurant where she was now suddenly in charge of training everyone. Where her weird hand gestures that Trevor had mocked were now being recognized as the valuable skill they'd always been. She texted back, yes. Let's show people how to do better. Over the next few days, the story continued to spread. Disability rights organizations praised Romano's for taking quick action. Deaf advocacy groups reached out to Lily for interviews. Other restaurants contacted Anthony asking about implementing similar training. Trevor, Michelle, and Brian were given the option to resign or be fired. Trevor resigned immediately and left town. Michelle and Brian chose termination, hoping it would look better on their records, but word had spread through the restaurant industry. Nobody wanted to hire the people from that viral video. Meanwhile, Lily went from being the person nobody wanted around to being the person everyone suddenly wanted to impress. Staff members who'd ignored her for weeks were now trying to be her friend. People who'd made her feel incompetent were now asking her for advice. The transformation was dizzying. Just 1 week ago, she'd been considering quitting because the mockery and isolation were too much. Now she was developing training programs, giving interviews, and being celebrated as an advocate for inclusion. But the most satisfying moment came when Nicole pulled her aside and said quietly, "Thank you for not giving up on this place. A lot of people would have just quit and let us keep being terrible. Instead, you're actually trying to make us better." "That takes real courage," Lily smiled. "I didn't do this for you. I did it for every deaf person who'll walk through those doors in the future. But if you all learn something and become better people because of it, that's a nice bonus." The training was scheduled to start the following week. Lily had 1 week to develop a curriculum, gather materials, and prepare to teach the same people who'd spent weeks making her feel worthless. But she wasn't nervous anymore. She'd found her voice, even if that voice spoke through her hands, and nobody was laughing now. Lily spent the entire week preparing for the training session. She reached out to local deaf organizations for advice, not wanting to mess this up. A woman named Patricia Rodriguez, who'd been deaf since birth and ran a consulting business helping companies with accessibility, agreed to co-teach the sessions. "You're doing something really important," Patricia told Lily over video chat, signing while speaking. "Most businesses only change after they're forced to. The fact that you're taking this seriously means you actually care about making a difference." "I just keep thinking about my brother," Lily signed back, "about all the times he's been made to feel invisible. If I can prevent that from happening to even one person, it's worth it." Patricia smiled warmly. "Then we're going to create something special. Let's get to work." They developed a curriculum that covered not just basic sign language but also cultural awareness, why accessibility matters, and how to interact respectfully with deaf customers. Catherine's television station had agreed to film the training for their follow-up story, which added pressure but also accountability. The morning of the first training session, Lily arrived early. Her stomach was full of butterflies, but she felt ready. 12 staff members filed in, servers, hosts, bartenders, even some kitchen staff who'd volunteered. Some looked genuinely interested. Others looked like they were just there because they had to be. Lily stood at the front of the room with Patricia beside her. "Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. I know change is uncomfortable, especially when it happens like this, but what we're going to learn today will make you better at your jobs and better people." Patricia signed as Lily spoke, her hands moving with beautiful fluidity. Then she took over, with Lily signing her words. "My name is Patricia. I've been deaf my entire life. I've experienced incredible kindness and terrible cruelty from hearing people. The difference always comes down to whether someone sees me as a person or as a problem." She paused, making eye contact with everyone in the room. "When you see a deaf customer, I want you to see an opportunity. A chance to connect with someone, to make their day better, to show them they're valued. That's what Lily did for Sophie, and that's what we're here to teach you." They started with basics, the ASL alphabet, common greetings, restaurant vocabulary. Lily and Patricia moved through the room, gently correcting hand positions, praising good attempts, keeping everyone engaged. Nicole was a natural, picking up signs quickly and asking thoughtful questions. A bartender named Kevin mentioned he had a deaf uncle he'd lost touch with, and he seemed genuinely motivated to reconnect. They became informal teaching assistants, helping others who struggled, but there were resistors too. A server named Brandon kept making deliberately wrong signs, treating it like a joke. A hostess named Amber kept checking her phone and sighing heavily. Halfway through the session, Patricia stopped everything. She looked directly at Brandon and Amber, her expression serious. "I want to tell you something," she said, with Lily interpreting. "When I was 7, my family took me to a restaurant for my birthday. The waitress couldn't communicate with me, so she just talked to my parents like I wasn't there. She brought me food I didn't order because nobody bothered to ask me what I wanted. When I tried to sign to get her attention, she waved me off like I was being annoying." Patricia's eyes were fierce now. "I cried in the bathroom on my own birthday because I felt invisible. Because I felt like a burden to my family and an inconvenience to everyone around me. That feeling stayed with me for years. And right now, watching some of you treat this like it's a waste of time, I'm thinking about all the deaf people who'll come to this restaurant in the future, and I'm wondering if you'll make them feel the way that waitress made me feel." The room was completely silent. Brandon's face had turned red. Amber had put her phone away and was staring at her hands. "So here's what I'm asking," Patricia continued. "If you can't respect this process, if you can't see why it matters, then leave now. Because deaf people deserve better than servers who are just going through the motions. They deserve people who actually care. Nobody left. The atmosphere completely shifted, became more focused, more serious. Even the resistors started putting in real effort. For the next 3 hours, they learned essential signs. Welcome. Menu. Water. Food. Check. Thank you. They learned how to get a deaf person's attention respectfully, never snapping fingers or shouting. They learned about deaf culture, why it's rude to interrupt someone who's signing, why eye contact matters, why speaking while signing actually helps people who can read lips. They practiced scenarios, role-playing customer interactions. Patricia played a deaf customer while staff members practiced taking her order, handling special requests, solving problems. It was awkward at first, but gradually everyone improved. By lunchtime, something remarkable had happened. The staff wasn't just learning signs, they were getting excited about it. Kevin was already planning to visit his uncle and show him what he'd learned. Nicole was creating a reference sheet of common signs to keep at the host stand. Same time next week, Lily announced as they wrapped up. We'll review what we learned and add more vocabulary. In the meantime, practice. There are great resources online. Patricia and I will send you links. And if a deaf customer comes in, don't panic. Use what you know. Effort matters more than perfection. As everyone filed out, Patricia pulled Lily aside. You're a natural teacher. Have you considered that maybe this is where you're supposed to be? Not in a classroom, but here. Making real change in the real world? Lily hadn't thought about it that way. She'd always imagined teaching in a school, but maybe Patricia was right. Maybe this was exactly where she needed to be. Over the next 2 weeks, the training continued. Each session built on the last. The staff's signing improved dramatically. More importantly, their attitudes changed. They started to understand that accessibility wasn't about special treatment, it was about basic human dignity. Then deaf customers started coming in, having heard about Romano's efforts. A deaf couple came for dinner and Nicole greeted them with a signed welcome. They looked shocked and delighted. Kevin took a drink order entirely in sign language and the customer tipped him 50% because she was so impressed. Word spread through Chicago's deaf community. Romano's became known as a place where deaf people could dine without anxiety. Business actually increased not just from deaf customers but from hearing people who wanted to support a business doing the right thing. The follow-up news story aired 6 weeks after the original. It showed the training sessions, interviewed staff about what they'd learned, and featured testimonials from deaf customers. The segment ended with Sophie and her family returning to Romano's for another meal, this time being served by Nicole, who signed her way through taking their order while Lily watched proudly. The story got even more attention than the first one. Other restaurants started reaching out, asking how they could implement similar programs. Schools contacted Lily about speaking to students. Disability rights organizations invited her to conferences. One evening, during a busy Friday shift, something unexpected happened. A man walked into the restaurant looking nervous and uncomfortable. Lily recognized him immediately. It was Trevor. He approached the host stand where Nicole was working. She recognized him too, and her expression went cold. "Can I help you?" "I'd like to speak with Lily if she has a moment," Trevor said quietly. "I understand if she doesn't want to talk to me." Nicole looked at Lily across the restaurant, raising her eyebrows in question. Lily's first instinct was to say no. This man had made her life miserable, had mocked something precious to her, had tried to make her feel small and incompetent. But something made her walk over to where he stood. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the person she'd become over these past weeks. Someone who believed in second chances and growth. "What do you want, Trevor?" He looked genuinely uncomfortable, shifting his weight nervously. "I wanted to apologize. I know it's too late, and I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I needed to say it. What I did, mocking you, making fun of sign language, treating you like you were incompetent, it was all wrong. Really wrong. And I'm sorry." Lily crossed her arms. "What brought this on?" Trevor took a shaky breath. "I lost my next job after 3 weeks. Turns out my reputation from that video followed me. Nobody in the industry wants to hire me. I've been delivering food just to pay rent." He paused. "But that's not why I'm here. Last month my girlfriend had a baby. A little girl. And last week we found out she's profoundly deaf." Lily's expression softened slightly. "I keep thinking about Sophie," Trevor continued, his voice cracking. about how I mocked her language. And now I have a daughter who'll use that same language. I'm thinking about all the people like me who might make her feel small or stupid. And I'm thinking about people like you who might make her feel valued. Tears were running down his face now. I can't change what I did, but I'm learning sign language now. I'm reading everything about deaf culture. I'm trying to be better so I can be the dad my daughter deserves. And I wanted you to know that your story, your work, it's helping my daughter, because I'm going to fight for accessibility now instead of mocking it. Lily processed his words. Part of her wanted to stay angry, but she also understood transformation because she'd just witnessed 12 people go through it over the past weeks. What's your daughter's name? Grace? That's beautiful. Lily uncrossed her arms. Trevor, I accept your apology. Not because what you did was okay, it wasn't. But because people can change, and because Grace deserves a father who's willing to grow. She pulled out her phone. I'm giving you Patricia's number. She runs support groups for parents of deaf children. She can connect you with resources, other parents, the deaf community. Don't try to do this alone. Trevor looked overwhelmed with gratitude. Thank you. You're better than I deserve. I'm not doing this for you, Lily said honestly. I'm doing it for Grace. Every deaf child deserves adults who'll fight for them. If you're willing to be that person, you have my support. As Trevor left with Patricia's contact information, Nicole came over looking bewildered. Did that just happen? Did Trevor actually apologize? He has a deaf daughter now, Lily explained. It changed his perspective. That's intense, Nicole said. The guy who mocked sign language now has to learn it to talk to his own kid. It's not punishment, Lily corrected gently. It's an opportunity for him to break the cycle, to be better, to make sure Grace doesn't experience the same ignorance he showed Sophie. Nicole nodded slowly. You know what? A few months ago, I would have just enjoyed the karma of it, but you've taught me to see things differently, to see opportunities instead of just problems. Lily smiled. That was the real victory. Not the viral videos or the news stories or even the policy changes. It was watching people transform their thinking one person at a time. The evening continued with its usual rhythm. And as Lily moved between tables, some requiring sign language and others not, she realized Patricia had been right. This was exactly where she was supposed to be. 3 months after the original story broke, Romano's Chicago location looked completely different. SL alphabet posters decorated the walls. Each table had a small card with basic signs and a note explaining that staff were trained in American Sign Language. The menu included a QR code linking to a video of common signs for ordering food. But the biggest change wasn't visible on the walls or menus. It was in the people. The staff who'd once mocked Lily or treated her like she was incompetent were now her biggest supporters. They practiced signs during slow periods, competed to see who could learn the most vocabulary, and genuinely looked forward to serving deaf customers. Nicole had been promoted to assistant manager and threw herself into the accessibility initiative with unexpected passion. She later admitted to Lily that she had a nephew with hearing loss and had never known how to connect with him. Now she was teaching him signs and advocating for accommodations at his school. Kevin, the bartender, had reconnected with his deaf uncle after years of limited contact. I always felt like we couldn't really talk, he'd told Lily. Now I realize I was just being lazy. I could have learned years ago, but I didn't think it mattered. Thank you for showing me it does. The training program Lily developed had rolled out to 15 Romano's locations nationwide, with more scheduled every month. Patricia had quit her consulting business to partner with Lily full-time. Together, they'd created a comprehensive curriculum that other businesses were now purchasing and implementing. Lily had gone from insecure new waitress to national advocate for deaf accessibility. She'd been featured in disability rights publications, invited to speak at conferences, and consulted with lawmakers on accessibility requirements. Her life had completely transformed. One busy Friday evening, Lily was working the dinner shift when she noticed a family at the door. The moment she saw them, her heart leaped. It was a mother in a wheelchair, a father with a guide dog indicating he was blind, and their teenage son who was deaf. They approached Nicole's host stand with cautious expressions, the look of people used to restaurants being difficult, but Nicole's face lit up with a warm smile. Good evening, she said, signing to the son while speaking to the parents. Welcome to Romano's. We have a table ready that can accommodate your wheelchair and your service dog. Right this way. The mother's eyes immediately filled with tears. You know sign language? Our entire staff does, Nicole said proudly. We're trained in accessibility and inclusion. You're in good hands here. They were seated in Lily's section. As she approached the table, signing while speaking, the parents looked at each other with expressions of disbelief mixed with relief. We almost didn't come, the mother admitted. We've had so many bad experiences at restaurants. But we saw the news stories about this place and decided to give it a try. You made the right choice, Lily assured her. Tonight you can just relax and enjoy your meal. We've got you, and they did. Lily took the son's order directly in sign language. She described menu items to the father in detail so he could make informed choices. She made sure the table was positioned comfortably for the mother's wheelchair. The evening was seamless, comfortable, exactly what dining out should be for everyone. When the family was finishing their meal, the mother asked to speak with a manager. Anthony came over looking slightly concerned and Lily held her breath. Is everything all right? Anthony asked. The mother's voice was thick with emotion. Everything is more than all right. For years we've avoided going out as a family because it was too stressful dealing with places that weren't accessible. Tonight, for the first time in forever, we felt normal. We felt welcome. Your staff didn't just accommodate us, they made us feel valued. She pulled out a piece of paper and handed it to Anthony. We wanted to give you this. It's a letter for your corporate office. We're writing to every accessible business organization we know, recommending Romano's as a model for how restaurants should operate. You've set a new standard. Anthony looked genuinely moved. That means everything to us. But the real credit goes to Lily. She's the one who started all of this. The mother turned to Lily with tears streaming down her face. Thank you. Thank you for seeing my son as a person, not a problem. Thank you for making my family feel like we belong. The teenage son signed to Lily. You're the first waitress who ever talked directly to me. Usually they just talk to my parents like I'm not here. You made me feel important, Lily signed back, her own eyes wet. You are important. Don't ever let anyone make you feel otherwise. As the family left, the other diners in the restaurant started applauding. They'd been watching the interaction, moved by what they'd witnessed. Lily felt her face flush with embarrassment, but also with pride. Later that night, after the restaurant closed, Anthony called an impromptu staff meeting. Everyone gathered in the back room, tired from a long shift but curious.